Welcome back to Embrace the Cancel. So tonight I'm just going to shoot from the hip on this one. And I don't know if that's going to be shooting myself in the foot here, but I just think it's important to be able to, you know, reflect on things, right? We do so many things in our lives. We might have a job that we hold down, maybe you run a company, maybe, you've got family and people that rely on you. Maybe you've got different things, right, that are on your plate. And maybe you have ambitions and creative projects and hobbies and things like that that you enjoy. All of this kind of factors into what I would consider just like, a fully rounded life, right? But is it fully rounded, right? What I have found is that despite my best efforts to be grounded and on top of things, um, excuse me, what will actually happen is people around me will start to place demands on me or pressure or just kind of, entice me and pull me off track through whatever it is. Like today is Saturday, it's Memorial Day weekend, right? And so here we are, right? I'm sitting in my office space. And so I'm here, and this is one of these videos that I'm just deciding, I'm not even going to edit this at all, right? I'm here, I think it's around 8 o'clock at night or so, drinking some coffee. Cheers. I had an Uber Eats driver come to me and be like, do you work the night shift? And I'm like, no, it's just an office space. And they're like, oh, coffee at this time? And I was like, amen. And we all laughed, right? Why? Because I'm going to get some work done. I spent the whole day at the beach. It was a wonderful time. We're here in Miami, so I go to North Miami Beach sometimes, although not that much because I'm usually pretty busy. But there was an air show today, so instead of going to Miami Beach, you might end up walking for like 20 plus minutes from your parking spot, and we have a young child, so it's kind of hard to do all that. And so we go to North Beach, and didn't take us too long to find parking. And we stayed there for a little while, and I kind of got sunburned. You can't really see it. And I was super tired. But now, like my wife asked me, she's like, do you want to go out again? We can go to the fireworks or whatever. And I'm just like already tired. Like I'm waking up from my short nap, and I'm just like still exhausted. And I'm just like, no, So I'm going to work on things. Like this is one of the things that is a passion project for me, and it has been. And more or less, I would say this is like a marketing channel for the books. The first one is The Cancel. The next one is Transformation, Teacher Do Work, and that's about my teaching journey, which is ongoing. I first started teaching because I was trying to get skills so that I could do adjunct teaching and maybe take it from there, right? I was doing a PhD, so I was really looking into teaching as a long-term career. And so I started doing that about 3 years ago now, minus any other training or teaching things I've done in the past. And I'm just, I'm learning, and I'm learning about myself. And I feel like I've found situations where others needed to be uplifted, and they weren't getting that. And I was willing to, as a person, I'm just naturally exuding that, like, hey, take care of yourself, like, know that you bring a lot of value to this situation. You are gold, you're like an angel in disguise. I would tell people things like this because I knew it, and I could see it, and I could feel it coming from them, like how amazing and how awesome they were, right? And I know who I am, right, as a person and what I bring to a situation. If you would have stepped into my classroom at any point this year, you would have seen my artwork all over, the front and by the board and stuff like that. My triathlon medals. I'm wearing a triathlon shirt right now, actually. Just stuff like that. And like, I tend to make the lessons as interesting and as fun as possible. Like I'm a pretty laid back person, which actually gets me into a lot of trouble. But that's the kind of stuff I'm going to be writing about in that book. And that's why I'm making guided meditations for teacher burnout, right? Like I don't just want to focus on burnout though. I want to empower people. I want people to feel like your burnout is not your identity. That was a short that I made. It didn't perform too well. Um, Content about, you know, being burned out and overstimulated performs pretty well. But when it comes to empowerment, a lot of times we don't want to take that literally, or we don't want to actually listen to that and be like, you know what, this is, I can, and I'm going to, right? Because we feel burnt out, or we feel worn out, and we feel like, no, I just feel like I can't anymore, right? And I've been there, I'm still kind of there, actually. I'm still kind of going through a lot of my own failures in my own mind, and just beating myself up for it, and not, how do I say, not necessarily like it's not necessary that I do that, right? Why should I do that? Is that giving me value? No, it's not giving me value. It is good to reflect. It's good to adjust and come back to things with a fresh mindset, right? Maybe sometimes we're doing something that's not the right fit for us. I used to really just detest that when people would tell me, hey, oh, maybe you're not meant to do that. Maybe that's not for you, right? I would just be like, ugh, don't tell me that. Like, I'm, you know, I, I'm doing this and I believe in myself. I have confidence in my ability to do this thing, and I'll learn as I go. Like, if I'm not doing it well, then I'll figure it out. I don't need to sit here and discourage myself, early on, and not keep going. And I wouldn't encourage anybody else to discourage themselves early on in any endeavor, right? Like, don't just say, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Like, give yourself a chance, right? But at some point, you want to adjust, right? Like, for me, I'm looking more towards part-time in the future when it comes to teaching, because I've got a modular lifestyle. I've got a business that I'm helping a friend run. I've got my own private investigative agency that I still run. I've got a work that I do in regards to that. I've got music that I do, literally, as a pretty big part of my work, actually, and just things that I'm doing and working on that are helping me move forward in my life, right? Just different stuff like that. And then the teaching, if you add to that, I'm able to take these things, bring them together. I'm even able to take things like teaching, and some of the things I studied. I actually studied criminal justice, which is kind of laughable at this point because I'm not even in that field. Well, I guess I technically am, because I'm doing the private investigation, but so that's within that field, but it's not like, I'm not like a police officer, I'm not I'm not teaching in criminal justice or whatever, but I digress. But basically all I'm saying is just, there's things where it's like, it doesn't seem like things are in alignment, right? Like, I've got almost a PhD in criminal justice, right? I could have been a professor. I've got a master's, I've got teaching experience. I started to actually develop courses around the whole private investigations thing, just around, I think maybe I'll start to look into doing some courses around, like, doing your own research, right? If you want to research something, that was a dirty word or a dirty phrase during the pandemic, like, oh, so you did your research, did you? Right? Well, I mean, I think it's a good thing to be able to know how to vet sources, right? How to know whether something came from a legitimate source, how to how to understand something. Now we have tools at our disposal that are incredibly, like, insanely powerful. Like, I was able to diagnose car problems before my mechanic diagnosed them. I was able to figure out solutions to, like, bureaucratic issues that I'm dealing with and stuff, like, down to the last detail, to where I would have had to trial and error call people, and they would have told me whatever they tell me, and I would have had to figure it out through just whatever, just like bouncing around in the system to what to do with different things. I'm like, now I know how to handle stuff that I didn't know how to handle, and no one told me how to handle, right? Thanks to AI, right? So just stuff like that, there's a lot that you can learn. There's a lot that you don't even have to learn. Things like that, you can just type in, if you have an intuitive mindset, right? Like, if you're like, well, if I need to do this and if I do that, but I did this and I did this other thing, but if I do this, will this happen, or will I need to do this or that, right? And it'll literally tell you, yes, you need to blah, 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 because, and it'll show, like, I was looking at something for my business and it's like giving me the statutes and it's saying this is what it is. That person likely told you that because they were in this mode and then they thought it was this or that. And I get it, AI can lie, right? But you can check your sources. I can go look at the statutes and I can see what it said, right? What's another thing I could relate this to, right? Like teaching, right? Somebody tells you, that if you're going to teach, you're just going to have to stay up, you stay after work every day, late, right? Come in early every day. You're not going to get sleep. You're not going to have a life, right? Is that true? Because I can tell you that's not true for me. I'm going to go and I'm going to teach part-time coming up soon here. I'm going to go and I'm going to have a life. I'm going to do all the things that I want to do. I'm going to do my music. I'm going to start to scale up some of my business things that I'm working on. I'm going to build relationships with people, right? And I've already started to gain more traction in areas where I didn't have it before. Now I'm going to start to push forward more. And, I'm not perfect. Like there's some things that I haven't, handled and tackled in my life that I need to get on top of, right? Certain things that I haven't been able to afford to handle or deal with. So in a lot of ways, like my own personal responsibilities have been on the back burner to a large degree, contingent upon, business activities, upon work arrangements, upon whatever it is, building relationships. But what I've had happen was I built more traction in areas where there was less income coming in or less opportunity happening, and I've kind of built relationships up. I've seen income start to make a move forward for the better, in a more positive direction. And I've done that because I've stayed consistent. Over time, I put in a little bit more. I haven't let go of things that are major drivers that I see as pivotal and critical pieces of the puzzle for the future, right? Things that I want to use to have a synergistic kind of package to offer as a person, right? Like I do investigations. I can teach investigations. I can teach, right? I can teach a lot of different things that are related to research. Research and investigations are related, right? Music, art, right? Literature, writing. I wrote 2 books, or I almost wrote the second one. The second one's almost ready. But that one, let me tell you, the more I teach, the easier it is to write more for that book. And the more I think you'll be able to benefit from that, because that's the kind of thing where if you can see like what it is that somebody's going through exactly, like all the little challenges they're facing, their thoughts about it, etc., you can glean something from that. You can see, oh, okay, well, he bent over backwards trying to please everybody, right? He was his true and authentic self, and it kind of burned him. And at the end of the day, people, they didn't appreciate anything extra that he put in. So what should he have done? Maybe he should have gone for that lesson that he wanted to do, right? Like when I look back in retrospect, I realized like I should have just taught the lessons that I wanted to teach. I mean, I could have made sure they were aligned with the standards, right? There was a cool lesson that I did not too long ago, and it was actually where I used AI. Like there was a thing in our learning system, and I had to make a story about all the classmates, and we did like a mystery story where we're going through the school, and like it was like a story about this. So it was like a fictional story about us. Like late at night, we're looking for this lost thing, and we're going in all these places, and things are popping out, and then later on, like I made it into like a little podcast, and then I made it into like a whole video thing with like anime and stuff like that. And then we, I think we did an assignment or a writing assignment or something like that. We did some cool stuff. And I remember that day, the class next door, the kids were asking, are you going to be here next year? Right? I knew that was a win, right? I was being my true and authentic self. Like I was walking around the class telling knock-knock jokes to students. Like, and the principal came in and they had written a story about all of us were looking and doing this thing on this mystery thing, and then the principal came and she gave everybody detention, And then the principal actually came in during the lesson and they read the story to her. Um, but I thought that was super fun. And that kind of thing, I could have gone with that kind of thing the whole year. But what ended up happening to me was I started getting bogged down by administrative things, and I tried to keep up with them, and then they kept on changing and moving the goalpost, and it just basically it just became so all encompassing that I had to drop all the fun stuff and just like focus on doing it as simply as possible so that it would be as easy as possible for me to track everything and follow through and get it all done. And even then it's like you suck the life out of things, right? Well, I could have done what I wanted to, more so. I could have let loose a little bit, just relaxed a little more into things. I could have set boundaries around my time and my energy, right? Like staying late, coming in early, maybe on occasion, right? But like not every single day or whatever, especially if it's not appreciated, especially if you're not, people are still treating you like, you're not being committed or something like that. They're only paying attention to that one time you come in late, right? You came in early 3 days that week. You stayed late, you know, for no extra pay, but they're treating you like you're not committed and you're not responsible, and you got to grow up, right? It's like, you don't know me, you don't know what I've been through in my life, like you don't know what other things I have going that are actually more critical and more beneficial to me over the long run, even in the realm of teaching, right? Like I've got things going in my teaching career that literally make it so that I can continue to get teaching jobs going forward. So they're more important to me than something where I'm being treated like I'm not enough, right? But the money's nice. I don't mind. And I do enjoy the interactions with people, and being able to work with kids and change their lives and stuff like that, and inspire them. I know there were several kids I inspired during that time. There was one that actually wanted to write a book. There were teachers. I think there was one guy who worked at the school. He was a maintenance guy, right? And he came in one time when I was staying late doing my grading, and I had on the Promethean board, I had like a DJ was playing, right? The DJ was playing, used to be this thing called, I don't know if it was like Coffee and Vinyl, but then later on they renamed it, I think it was Coffee Break Sessions, but then they called it My Mix Journal, or My Audio Journal, yeah, MAJ on YouTube. Look that up. That's really cool. And I was just watching like all these exotic, like different, like, cool different types of music and stuff like that, just like funky stuff, a DJ just playing it. And the maintenance guy comes in and he's like, oh, that's cool. That's like a DJ. He's like, oh, that would be cool to get to learn to do that, and like we watched it for a while. We watched the DJ as they were kind of doing their thing, right? And they were like waiting really patiently, right? Like the song was playing, it was like DJ's playing the song, and over there they're kind of lining something up, checking it, beat matching it, listening to it on the headphones, right? But like a whole minute or two went by. The song's just playing and playing and playing. They check it again, and you're like, oh, are they gonna fade it? Are they gonna fade it? Because he knew, the maintenance guy knew about like the whole fader thing. He knew that fades it back and forth, right? Like, so we waited, and then finally there it was. They faded it over the next song. So like the DJ's doing their thing. They're methodically lining things up, right? Like they're getting it ready. Like they're taking the pieces. They're envisioning what they want for their future, right? And then they look at what they've got going. Whatever you've got going. Maybe you like to draw, right? Maybe you like to paint. Maybe you like the outdoors, right? Maybe you're an athletic type of person. Or maybe you just like inspiring people, right? Like, is there a way that you can get out there? Like if you are an athlete, you could get out there. There's lots of after school programs where you could literally go and inspire young people, right? That's one of those part-time kind of things, right? Like I'm a runner and a swimmer and a biker, right? And I just also did a Spartan race where it was like a whole bunch of like obstacles and stuff. So I've been trying to stay fit, because as you age, you want to be strong. You want to try to kind of protect your health, because if you don't proactively do that, a lot of times that can get it gets away from you, right? So I do that. And now that's turned into me being able to coach. If I teach out of school now, I can coach. I can coach cross country, for instance, right? So just little stuff like that. If I wanted to right now, I can go work at an after school program and I can do sports with kids, right? Even though like I didn't go to school for sports, right? I didn't even play that many sports growing up, except for with my dad and my brother. We used to get the whole neighborhood playing, different sports and stuff that we would kind of start the game with. But officially, not that much. But now as an adult, like I'm having resurgent of like wanting to do sports, wanting to do activities and stuff like that, right? And so I'm lining up the pieces. I'm finding ways, like even just having this, monologue for YouTube right now. Like I'm thinking of ways that I can reinvent myself, right? That I can move forward with passion and with energy, because at the end of the day, the world seeks to take it out of you. People are looking out for what they consider to be important for themselves. People can't help that. It's human nature, okay? So a lot of times when somebody gives you advice, it's projection, okay? They're telling you what they think about something as it relates to themselves, okay? And then they're projecting that onto you for the advice and the thoughts and whatever they observe and what they want to tell you, right? Sometimes it can be valid, but sometimes it's not necessarily helpful, right? So you've got to think about the things that you have that are strengths. You've got to find ways to come back into balance, right? I give myself time. If I didn't have this space, I would go into a park somewhere and sit. If I didn't have that, I would take a walk on a busy city street with lots of traffic and just have some time to just think and just be with myself, even with all the noise, right? I would do something to give myself that space and that ability to reconnect. And you know why? Because no one is going to give that to you. No one is going to guarantee you that space and that time and that connection. As a matter of fact, no one is going to value that connection that you have with yourself. Or you could say, with God, if you want to take some time in prayer and meditation, right? Like you take that time with God. No one is going to value your time with the divine as much as you do, or as much as you will once you see the benefits that you get from that, right? And you're able to have some clarity. Things start to come to you. You start to see a way forward. You start to see ways that you can bring the pieces together, right? You can bring it together and you can find a way to move forward through a stressful life, right? Through burnout. If you're a teacher, you're wondering, how can I make things work? Like I had a friend, she had a financial literacy course that she did at a high school that she was teaching at, right? That she made. And she kind of packaged it and made it into a program that she started offering to different people and doing it independently. And I guess, selling or enrolling people in and making money from that as a business. And she was successful at that for a long time. She actually ran into a thing with a patent, right? So now she's doing finance, and she's a very capable person, someone very capable of pivoting, and actually taught me or gave me the suggestion to do cross country. I have another friend who teaches and does that too. But find something like me. I do music and stuff like that. I've had a hard time, getting past the bureaucracy or like just all the administrative like stuff that bogs me down as a teacher, so that I can start to do the musical side of things. But a big problem with that, honestly, is just that I don't go into teaching music, right? I could probably just do that, and I've got some connections lined up with that, and I have for the last 10 years. I've had people who I could have hit up if I wanted to teach music, which I'm perfectly capable of doing. Like I play guitar in a gig where the music, fly or something there, a mosquito. I play guitar in a gig where the musicians that I play with one of them plays stadium tours. We just got off of 2 stadium tours. Another one tours internationally, and he's like one of my good friends. And so I play different instruments. I play the bass primarily, but I play the guitar now more than the bass. And it's to the point where it's like, well, I got to own that, right? But can I teach somebody guitar? I can definitely teach somebody guitar. I can teach them bass. I could even teach them drums or piano or or some other instruments as well. Like as long as it just requires some, some basic, some notes and some rhythm and stuff like that. I have the basics. Like I have it down pretty good as far as just like the fundamentals of what you need to know if you're working with any musical instrument, honestly, or your voice. I can sing as well, and I can produce and I write. Um, so I could literally just pivot completely and just do that as a career. Teaching, recording sessions, church gigs, gigs with bands, right? Literally. And maybe some solo music and stuff like that. I do write and do my own stuff. But I could do all that and just nothing but, like, literally, because you take one good music teaching job and the next thing you know, you're out there doing nothing but music. You're doing gigs on the side and that, and you pay your bills that way. Or sports. I could pivot just to sports, and not to mention all my creative projects like the writing and stuff like that. That's a little harder to do, and that's something that I've been struggling, not necessarily struggling with, but it's something that I've been, it's a journey, right? Like, first of all, just writing a book is a pretty big endeavor. My first attempt at writing this book was 20 years ago. I actually finished writing on paper what was kind of the precursor to the cancel, right? My first book that I wrote was, um, it was it was about trip. It was like a travel memoir that I traveled to Kenya, and I actually ended up. I had this relationship that was a long relationship that was so important, like in my life, and who just shaping me as a person, encouraging me towards the education that I pursued, and all the things that I did in my life. It really kind of changed my view on what was possible, and I actually wrote about that in the cancel, right? Like, there's so much that I've been through in my life that it would be too much for anyone to sit and listen to it all, like that. But I can do it in small doses, right? Like I can talk about things in small doses. um, Even a lot of what I'm saying in this video I'll probably edit out, just because there's so much that, it's overload, right? Like, and that's what I'm preaching and talking about, is just, hey, cancel overload, cancel overstimulation, right? um, but like, I've been through so much. Like, I almost finished that book, or I finished it actually on paper, and then I tried to transcribe it little by little, and I got a lot of it transcribed. Um, and eventually, like, I don't even know if I know where the rest of the manuscripts are anymore for that original travel slash, memoir. Um, and that's okay, because I took as much of that as I could and put it into the cancel to give like a backstory for who I am and where I come from and how I've evolved, um, and how I'm continuing to evolve, right? So writing for me is honestly just therapeutic. It gives me an outlet. It gives me a way to chronicle the things that have happened in my life, right? And I'm less concerned about making money from my writing, even though I believe, and I know that in the future, the things that I'm doing, like this book, The Cancel, actually came to me in a dream with the cover of the book and the title and everything on it, right? And the little tagline underneath the title and everything. Almost doesn't it almost just sounds silly, right? Like cancel. Uh, what is it? Using the power of the cancel to elevate your life. I don't know if I don't think that's exact words, right? But like, it just sounds silly. It sounds stupid. Like, what? Using the power of quitting to change your life? What a dummy. What an idiot, right? Yeah, I want you to think that. I want you to think I'm just a complete idiot. You know why? Because when things actually go the way that I ultimately hope they will go, that is the time when it's a beautiful moment. And there have been many moments like that in my lifetime, right? Even now, like, there's so many things that have happened recently for me that I won't even sit and talk about here. But when I pull myself together, when I come back into who I am, I meditate, I find that peace and that space within, right? I breathe. I make sure that I'm keeping balance. I'm actually trying to get rest as much as possible. There are times when I don't get it, right? But I'm doing what I can so that I'm clear, and I give myself the chance to arrive at that space of clarity where I can move forward with confidence, okay? And that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, I don't care if anybody believes me. I don't care if anybody, what they think of who I am and what I accomplish, right? I don't even care if I fail. But I can tell you right now that my willingness to go forward boldly and be willing to fail and be willing to move in confidence and pull together the beautiful relationships with the people that I, meet, and the opportunities that I don't take for granted, okay? These are things that at the end of the day, I'm willing to risk failure for, because at the end of the day, I know that that's the path to success. And trust me, I've failed at things, I've had things fall through that were catastrophic for me. And when I think about it all I can do is say, I've got to find a monumental push that is so much more significant than that failure, that it will override anything that is causing, anything that's holding me back as a result of that, right? I might not know what it is now, and I can relax into that. I don't have to force, grab a hold of one idea and just push it, with reckless abandon. But what I can do is I can start to move forward with confidence, and just have that kind of intuition and peace about things, where I'm taking steps. I'm not, hesitating. I'm doing so confidently, and I'm doing so without ceasing. I'm doing so, I'm moving in flow. And when that happens, what ends up happening is things start to move toward you. You start to move in flow and in confidence and in trust. That's a big key one. Trust. Faith. Things start to move towards you. The Bible talks about this stuff, right? God, has plans to prosper you, not to harm you, right? Having that trust in God, worry not therefore about the morrow, right? Jesus said, right? You're moving in confidence and in peace and in trust. That means you don't know what's going to happen. That means you know that you could fail, and that you actually have to accept that failure as a step in the road toward wherever it is you're going. I can tell you right now that we're all going to the same end, death. Why be in a hurry, right? Have faith. Have trust that where you're moving is where you're meant to move. Listen to the intuition and to the conscience inside of you when you make choices and decisions, right? There's a lot of times when you'll know, I had some things happen in my relationship, right? I could have just walked away. I could have just gone off and just done whatever. I would have been fine. I've done what I needed to do my whole life, right? But there was a part of me that said, you know what? Don't do that. You don't know what's going to happen during this time. I actually had a thought. I think it was, I don't know who it was. It might have been Muji, right? It's a Jamaican guy that's, it's like a non-dual kind of thing. I was listening to a video autoplayed on YouTube, and he was saying, you don't know what's going to happen during this time, so just be still, or something like that. And I didn't make the moves that I thought I should, might need to make at that time. And I had faith and confidence, so much so that I stepped forth and I said, we are going to make things work. I am going to commit to this, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not letting this fall apart, right? That's a big thing to sit there and say. you're talking completely out of faith. You're moving completely out of faith. You don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Truth is, I mean, if you really examine it, right? Like, do you know what's going to happen at your teaching job, right? Do you know that they're not just going to choose not to bring you back next year, right? I mean, if you're doing a good job, they probably will bring you back, right? And you'll get all the stress that comes with it too. Um, and God bless you, and take care of yourself, you know. If you're a creative, you know, do you know what's going to happen with your art? No, but you know, you meet people and you make connections, and you go out there, you get out there, you market yourself, right? Like I made a painting last year. Um, it was my first like serious painting. It was part of a project called the Miami Artist Connect. What is it? Miami Artist Connection Project or Connectedness Project, right? And my thought was like, if I want to bring together artists, all these people that I know so many artists, right? But we're kind of like lone cowboys or cowgirls or whatever. Like we kind of, you know, we're a little bit elusive, and it's mysterious, right? And sometimes it's not easy to bring a bunch of artists together. So what you have to do, sometimes you just got to get out there and just do something symbolic, right? Like I had a friend who was a mural maker, and he's made murals. Like he made a mural of my thing for my for Be the Light for my nonprofit, right? Like he made a mural of that. He just because I had him make a piece of art with that, and then he just went out and did it. He's done collabs with artists that he didn't even do collabs with, right? Like he puts a calling card out there, and he just makes art and does things, and puts that, you know, tries to make that connection, like reaches out for that connection. He doesn't wait for somebody to come to him, right? Like, and I don't wait for that either. I move in peace and in confidence. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, you know. So I'll leave you with that. I don't know how heavily edited this is going to be because I went on a long rant. I would love to just put this whole thing out there. Not sure if I will. We'll see. You're probably going to get a lot though. Like this is right now we're at you know, in the realm of about 30 minutes. So there's probably going to be a lot. There's probably going to be about that length of a video here. I hope that you have enjoyed hearing me just rant about my stuff. Like my book is kind of that too, a little bit. It's a lot more structured though. And as I've gone back, I've read it and just like been like, yeah, this is like I'll read, because I put in bold like the big epiphanies that I had, like the mantras that I would say to myself, like things that pronouncements, like things that I was standing on, like proclaiming over my life, like things that I was you know, speaking over things, like anything that I was saying, you know, like I refuse to allow doubt to creep in and be controlled and guided by other people's, you know, other people's doubt over my life, or expectations that are placed on you, and you can't even you know, you give up on your whatever goals or things you want to do, or you don't do what you need to do for yourself just because of guilt or doubt or fear, right? I put things like that in bold in my book, and I really tried as hard as I could to memorialize some of those thoughts, because as I was writing it, some of those thoughts were so profound for me that when I would go back and edit it and read it, I would hear those and, you know, read those thoughts again and just be like, wow, yeah, exactly, right? Like I would be like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not gonna forget that because I wrote it down in a book, right? So if you read this, I guarantee you're gonna see something in there that is gonna click. Like, I hope that, you know, you stayed for long enough to hear these final thoughts on this. My book, The Cancel's on Amazon right now. It's a hardcover, it's a paperback, it's on Kindle. You can go pick that up. The cheapest one I think is $9.99. Or if you have Kindle, I don't know if it's now on Kindle Unlimited. It might be. So maybe if you have that. I'm trying to get it up on Audible. It's a bit of a process. You got to find somebody to narrate it. And there's like, it has to get approved to get narrated and stuff. They like auto select books that they'll let you narrate with AI and stuff. But mine, I think it was the formatting wasn't like whatever their cookie cutter format was. It's a unique formatting, so but it's definitely a fun read. It's got a good rhythm to it. It feels good to read. Um, so at any rate, pick it up, have a physical copy of the book in your hand, or even if you don't have a Kindle, like you can do it on your desktop, right? You can do the Kindle book reader um, app or whatever for your PC or your Mac or whatever, and then you can actually just read it from that. And then another thing you can do, actually, that I like to do, because sometimes I can't get a book on Audible, right? And I want to have an audiobook. So what I'll actually do is I'll buy the Kindle book from whatever the author is, and then I'll, like, if you have an Amazon Alexa, I don't even think you need to necessarily have an Alexa device, but like you can just get the Alexa app on your phone, and you can pull up your Kindle book in that. And like that's what I do. I actually pull up the Alexa app on my phone, and I read it. It pulls up the Kindle book for something that I can play. Like it'll find like my media or whatever, and I go down to it, and it has the book there, and I press play on it, and it reads my whatever the book is that I've downloaded to me, like it's an Audible book. So that's a really cool hack. um, I should probably be charging for these because I have a lot of little hacks like that. I mean, you can build a second brain, literally. You can now, I mean, with the systems and stuff that they have, you can build a second brain. You can literally categorize, you can use AI to like track and manage all your thoughts and memos and notes and things, and then analyze it, come up with solutions and ideas, and find ideas that you had that all kinds of stuff like that. Like, there's so much you can do now, you know, and it's getting easier and easier. And even like I had my worries and I had my thoughts about like, hey, what am I going to do now? Like people thought that maybe teachers are going to go obsolete because of AI, right? I mean, right now it's just helping teachers a lot, but there's some ways that you could probably automate, like, you got these automated like classes where the kids, I mean, they basically just sit in the room with you and learn by themselves, right? It's almost like AI is starting to take over in that sense. But hey, right now there's still a lot of teachers and they're very burned out and they're trying to do their best. And a lot of times, I actually watched a video from a lady talking about how schools are hiring more administrators now, right? And it's because there's like this thing called Parkinson's law where systems just kind of tend to grow automatically. So like even if there's no need for it, like schools will hire more administrators than teachers sometimes. And it's because systems are inclined to grow more and more, like for the benefit of the system itself. So that's an interesting thing, and that's not just in teaching. That's actually in government, in companies. It's in everything. In societies, like there's a whole. It's like an organizational structure, kind of like a natural human nature kind of thing, I guess. I mean, these are the kinds of things that I nerd out on super hard. That's probably why I'm a teacher. That's probably why I'm a writer. Why I'm like a creative drinking coffee in the evening on Memorial Day weekend, preferring my own company, right? But let me tell you that down the road, that divergence is going to pay off. And I hope that you're along for the journey when already, a lot of things that I'm doing right now, I wouldn't be in this office space if I didn't take particular moves in faith in my own business and life endeavors, right? Like, so there are a lot of ways that it is paying off. It's just that I want things to come full circle. I want to create the kind of growth that, could create like a seminar or something where people could come and do some of these guided meditations. We could do sound healing, we could talk about things. I want to create a community where people can actually, let me put this coffee down, right? I'm dangerous. I want to create a community where people can actually talk about their ideas and their struggles, right? And be able to empower one another, encourage one another, give each other some kind of thoughts and ideas, and to be able to jointly participate in mindfulness practices, right? Any kind of prayer or anything where we're trying to speak over communities in a positive way, right? Where we want to see people have growth. We want to see people achieve the goals that they want. We want to see people break through barriers and through blocks that they have personally, because a lot of things that are happening right now in our society are us being blocked. We are being blocked by the things that are within that we internalize through all of our struggles and all of our pain and all of our stress and all of our frustration. Those things may not readily be apparent to be blocking you, but what you'll find is that some of the things that you don't know why you do it or you wish would be a different way are because of those things. And I can sit here and be like, it's not your fault, because it isn't, right? But we have a responsibility now as a community of people who are starting to wake up, starting to realize, right? And I can frame this like, I can frame this in a Christian way. We're starting to understand that the kingdom of heaven is within. We're understanding that, I think I said this, I don't even remember who or where I said this to the other day, but I was just like, I was saying something about like, I've got all the love, like I've got love, I've got the love, right? But what I need is it was some other thing I wanted to do in a situation, or something like that. I can't even remember where it comes from. But I realized like I've got an abundance of love inside of me that I can share with others. That's, that I can transfer that energy. I can give that energy. Someone else can take that, have that reawaken within them, understand the value of their own self and who they are and the beautiful self that they are, reawaken to their purpose and their own passion and things, and then go forward without fear and see it actually start to brighten and blossom in their lives. And that's the kind of thing that I think as a community we can start to do for each other, honestly. I would love to someday be able to meet some of the people that read this book or the next one that's coming, right? And to be able to just not necessarily be this guy who sits up here and says, I know all the answers, but you know what? Maybe I could learn from someone else who gets inspired by it, Maybe they can think of something I haven't thought about, right? But I just feel like right now what's happening is the world, while at the same time, like while the world is starting to become more connected, it's also becoming more disconnected, right? And people are starting to become desensitized to things. We've got all these wars and things going on. People are, how much, does a normal person, an average person, sit and just lament over the human suffering that's been going on, right? How much? We need to connect with each other and with our humanity. We need to be, we need to be able to be there for each other, to support one another, to encourage one another, right? That kind of sounds like something from the Bible too, doesn't it? Right? We need to do these things, okay? The reason why we need to do these things is because you want to be in the world but not of it, okay? There always have been and there always are going to be so many things that are going on that are just more than most of us can even, like you wouldn't even be able to hold it all, right? But the beauty of human nature is that we can, or humankind, right, is that we can come together. We can start to support one another. We can encourage one another. It doesn't cost anything to encourage somebody. You know what I mean? It doesn't cost anything to exude and give love and to hear one another and just like be able to talk about things, like to be able to create that sense of peace, like collectively, I think. And I think that's essentially what I want. Like I have, my nonprofit seeks to give food and clothing to the homeless. But the funny thing is, or not funny, haha, but like you go out and you start to give items out to people. I also heard my church talking about this with their homelessness mission, mission that they were doing, like you start to go out and you talk to these people, you connect with them, you hear their stories. Like it's not you're giving somebody something, they're sharing themselves with you. You're meeting somebody that you are truly feeling deeply connected to, and that's that disconnect that needs to be, that's that gap that needs to be bridged. It needs to be bridged between anybody in a normal situation or in a situation like that, which we none of us necessarily want to wind up in, right? But it's what we have to do. We've got to, me coming back to myself right now is just me being ready to be able to give something again. That's why I'm making these meditations. And I go back and I listen to them and I do them, you know. A lot of these videos that I've done actually have meditations in them. If you look at them, they don't necessarily say meditation on the title, but go back and look at some of them and you'll see some meditation in there. And it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's helpful. It's helping me, and I hope it helps you. Food for thought.